Welcome to Flavor of the Month, our monthly series here at Halo Halo Productions, where we interview some of the creatives behind our favorite short films. We ask about the inspirations, challenges, and secrets, what it takes to create a beautiful indie short. I'm Mick, one of the members of Halo Halo, and this month, February 2024, we are featuring the 2019 short film, Grandma's 80th Surprise. Grandma's 80th Surprise is a 10-minute dramedy about a respectful young man who is forced to confront his family's rigid traditions as he seeks the approval of the family matriarch, his formidable 80-year-old grandmother. This features Myrasol Martinez as Ella, Curtis Lum as Curtis, Lillian Lim as Grandma Lily, and Ricky, is it her?
He, her.
And Ricky Keha as Ryan. It also features other Vancouver actors such as Bonita Joy, Simon Chin, Micah Chen, Mike Ching, Shermaine Yu, and Jeannie Mack. This feature is also designed by yours truly back in 2019, and hair and makeup was actually done by my wife, Iya, as well. I chose this film for February because this month is about love usually, for Valentine's, and this theme features quite heavily around that. And also, lastly, I also want to thank the team for allowing my dad to launch his film career as a background actor in this film.
That's right. That's right.
He does not stop talking about that.
Maybe you should get him in on again.
Curtis's mum has a flourishing acting career. He needs to join the ranks.
True.
Yeah.
If they ever need a bald Filipino man,
we always need
shiny.
bald Filipino man.
Yeah.
So before we get started, how about y'all just introduce yourselves? Who are you and what did you do in the short film?
I'm Fola Evans-Akingbola, and I was one of the co-directors and producers of the film.
I am Curtis Lam. I play Curtis Lamb in the film. I co-wrote this with Fola, and we co-directed this, and I produced the film. And actually, you know what? One of my favorites, the bit that I'm most proud of actually is I did the casting and catering. But
I literally told him before we started, I said, please don't be like Johnny Drama.
No, shut up. I'll get into it later, but I'm so proud of the cast that we assembled. I was such fans of everyone that we brought on board beforehand, and to see it all come together, of all the things, I think that was my biggest takeaway. That's all.
Which is a great segue. My name is Ricky He, and I was lucky enough to be casted as Ryan on Grandma's 80th. And actually, I'm Curtis's pride and joy.
So is he the grandfather to your kid?
You just made me spit all over the laptop.
My name is Marc Yungco. I was the cinematographer and producer of Grandma's 80th.
Hey,
and congratulations to Mark for being our first recurring visitor.
Double guest.
Series regular / future host of the show, it seems.
That series reg money. Okay.
Yeah.
Paula, how about tell us a little bit about the film, what it's about, and how we ended up making the film?
Oh my gosh, I get the hard question. So the film is about Curtis and his girlfriend nervously preparing to introduce his girlfriend to his grandma for the first time, and the sort of cultural anxiety about that because his girlfriend's half black. So it's a sort of exploration of, what is it an exploration of? Yeah, of I suppose,
familial,
family dynamics and racial dynamics cross-culturally, but we wanted to really approach it with a light touch, because that is a subject that could be really heavy and difficult, but that's why we wanted to make it comedy. But really the origin of the project came from Curtis. He called me and was like, should we do this?
And is this film based on real life?
It is, but I didn't know the extent to which this was happening until we made this film. So I didn't know the extent.
Thanks for bringing it up, Mick.
So until I read the script, I was like, oh, okay, is this really what was going on behind the scenes? So yeah, it is based on real life.
Yeah.
So Curtis, when you wrote the script and Fola's surprise, how much of it really was something you really experienced?
In all honesty, I'd say it was about 80% true. If you look back to my first draft that I had written, so how this all came to be, I always got to give the shout out to Phil Planta, because he was the one that really planted that seed in me and that spark to get me inspired enough to even try directing and writing. But basically, I was really inspired by the previous MAMM short films, one of which he had done, I think maybe it was 2 years before that. MAMM is, I'm sure your fans all over the world, they must know about MAMM. It is a film competition here in Vancouver, British Columbia that is done under the Vancouver Asian Film Festival every year, every summer. I forget how many teams that they choose, but you get essentially a week to write and to shoot the film. And so it was a challenge that scared the shit out of me. But you know, Phil was kind of like in my ear about it. He was like, you should just try it. Like, what do you have to lose? Just try. You never know what could happen. And on that same day, that was when I met Marc Yungco, our lovely DOP and producer in this film as well. And yeah, it was just very serendipitous how it all came together. I remember after meeting with the two of them, I went home and I don't know, something came over me. Like, I just got hit by this wave of inspiration. And so I downloaded Celtics or Celtics, whatever it's called. And I just started plugging away. The first draft, I mean, as raw and as kind of rugged as it was, I think it was very authentic and reflective of my experience dealing with my family, my grandmother specifically. Big kudos to Fall here, who really helped me shape the script into what it became, which was just much more cohesive and concise. It had some really nice layers to it. And it kind of just wraps up in a nice, beautiful ending. But yeah, a lot of the things that were said in the film were said in real life.
Are you talking about the flashback parts?
Definitely the flashback parts. And to be honest, the flashback parts, it's funny, we deliberated on that a lot because we had, I think, 3 or 4 different versions of what those flashbacks could have looked like. Those were the most PG ones.
So your grandma actually said, "Are you crazy? Do you want to die?" Is that really something she said on the regular?
All the time. Yeah. If I bought her a plant or something for the house that was like more than $25, she would literally be like, "Do you want to die?
Yeah.
Are you fucking mad?" So that's kind of, yeah, that's the you know, slightly abusive childhood that I grew up. And I'm glad that we were able to turn it into art and share the story with the world. Here we are.
That's amazing. Like you said, it was made for MAMM. You know, as we are all different creatives in making the film. What were kind of the goals that you had when you started this journey of making this film? Like, did you have anything in mind?
Win. No, I'm kidding.
Well, as far as I know, we did win something. It won a few awards.
Yeah, no, we did win. I'm kidding.
We did.
Oh,
We did.
You're embarrassing us, babe.
Yeah.
You swept
Well,
it.
as soon as it was like competition mode, definitely, you know, especially this one, she gets real competitive. But my goal, honestly, okay, so 2 things. After meeting with Phil and meeting Marc, I definitely was inspired to kind of just get out of my comfort zone and just give this thing a whirl, you know. I've written in the past, but it was, you know, I have never fancied myself as a writer. And then when it came to directing, my goal was actually to activate you, because she had just finished a filmmaking program out in the UK. And it was part wanting to just do something from a place of inspiration, watching this amazing work that's been coming out of our city and our community for the past couple of years through the MAMM program, through the VAF program, and just through a bunch of my friends that are just always, you know, making great art, and just kind of wanting to take a stab and just enter the arena myself. But it was part that and part, you know, she had just graduated that program. I wanted to gift her an opportunity to kind of put all of her teachings into play. And thankfully she liked the script. I had told her that, you know, I think I can assemble a pretty solid team as far as producers, as far as, you know, how this thing's gonna look. And, you know, with my connections in terms of like talent within the community, I was quite confident that, you know, we would have something here. Thankfully she said yes. And then after that, it was really just about, it's a story that's so close to home. So our goal was really about taking something that was very vulnerable and very kind of scary to share with the world, but placing it in kind of a space where it was sort of palatable, if that's the right word, and
yeah,
accessible.
Yeah.
You know, we wanted to give this the best chance that we could, because it was such a special story to me and to her. So that was the challenge, to just honor the story and honor everyone involved by not doing a shitty film.
How about for you, Fola? As Curtis mentioned, you just graduated from the filmmaking program. As far as I understood, this was one of your first times in the director helm as well. Were there any goals for you when you started setting out on this journey?
The program was like it was like a summer course. Overall, like, to zoom out, I think you guys have you guys being Vancouverites, have such passionate and vibrant like film community and storytelling community out here that I've been able to witness from doing American acting jobs here and through Curtis and being part of it. And really, I think after a while, as storytellers, you just realize, oh, well, the only way to really engage properly is to make a film and to be part of that storytelling community and connect with it and make an offering to like the collective conversation. And I think I've always loved storytelling, and Curtis saw that I had that kind of, you know, I'm an actress, but I had that sort of desire to do a little bit more behind the camera. And I think we both have a perspective about the things we want to see out in the world. And this was our first try with that.
Your English is very good. Your Canadian is so good.
How about you, Ricky? I can't remember how early into your career. This has been 4 years ago now. When you got casted either by your own volition or by Curtis's strict arm.
Curtis said he would set my house on fire if I didn't do this film, and I wasn't sure if he was serious. And then he lit a match. I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah." So I got to do it. Yeah.
So your goal was protecting your family.
That's it. That was really what it came down to. I had obviously seen Curtis all over the community. I'd auditioned for Tiffany a lot when Curtis was a casting associate at TIFFs. He thought of me for this, and I was really grateful for it, because I was at we started shooting this, I think, summer of 2019, and so it was right prior to COVID really hitting hard. And through 2019, I think I had finally started to generate a little bit of momentum in my career. And so through 2019, I was kind of starting to go through a process of like auditioning for projects that I would have never had a chance to audition for the year prior, and getting dangerously close to some of these potentially life-changing projects. And so I think because of that, that was a big year of, oh shit, this could be the you know, I was on clout mode, looking into the future of like, oh, what could this mean potentially? And then having faced so much rejection with so many of these projects through that year, I remember specifically when we were at the screening, when we were at MAMM, and we watched this beautiful short film that we all got to participate in, like the first time in a very long time where I felt like, oh, like I just did something that was really important to me, you know, with no preemptive ulterior motive other than just to do something that was a fun experience and a fulfilling experience. Like on the topic of the storytelling, you know, be like, it really felt like, you know, the first time I understood the true craftsmanship and the passion that is constantly boiling in the Vancouver film industry, where it's like, oh shit, this is really possible. Like we can really make our own stories that are important. And actually, this is credit to you, Mick, where my first kind of like true sense of that was when I stepped onto set and you had set out the dinner.
Yeah.
And yeah, and it was like the first time I'd ever seen anything on screen that looked like an authentic meal that a Chinese family would have. Mm-hmm. And everything in the room looked like a home that I had visited as a kid at a family friend's birthday party or at a cousin's home or whatever. Like it felt authentic. And I had, you know, like 3 years before that, like one of the first things I ever booked was Chinese Teen Boy on a Fox TV series where we were just a fit Chinese family eating dinner. And then the monster, the great Paul the Typhoon Chang, comes in and fucking murders the whole family. And I remember sitting at that table and like, this is not what the fuck? My family would never eat some shit like this.
And why do we have shoes on? This is weird.
Yeah, why do I got my fucking shoes on? What is this? And so it really felt like, oh yeah, we're telling something that's like important and authentic. And I think that was the most powerful thing for me. It was cool. Like it really felt like I was doing something for me as well as for a community, as opposed to doing something for a potentiated future or whatever. You know,
if I can just piggyback off of that, when I was saying earlier about how I was so proud of the casting, like Ricky and I didn't know each other that well prior to shooting this, and I think we had met once prior to shooting, and so quickly was it sort of revealed that we had so many similarities. It's like uncanny, you know what I mean? Like the fact that we literally went to the same high school, more or less grew up in the same area, but also kind of being the transplants as well, like growing up in East Van, going to school in the West Side, and sort of both growing up in this liminal space between sort of East Van, West Van, and then kind of having the same interests, and then obviously, you know, both being actors and like our journeys of how we both became actors. And then so when we got to shooting, we actually shot this film maybe 3-4 blocks away from our high school.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, that's great.
There's so many just incredible memories that just arose for me. Like that whole was like a 2-day shoot. So it was a very, very special experience for me. And it just, as soon as I tapped into that, I realized I kind of saw the behind the scenes of the magic of casting, and how when you get it right, man, does it make everything easier. Man, does it just make the journey that much more incredible. And I really felt that with you, Ricky. As soon as you came on board, it was like people legit thought you were my actual little bro. Like you don't look anything like him in real life, but
it felt that way. Yeah, it felt that way.
Yeah.
It felt like automatic. And I do think like a big part of it was like, I mean, the writing, obviously, like the dynamic, everything about screams authenticity. You know what I mean? Like I'm in an interracial relationship, and all the same anxieties, all the same conversations, all the same relief. And then, yeah, the relationship between the brother, like I have a little sister, I don't have a brother, but I have like cousins I grew up with that I'm very close with. And everything about the relationships felt authentic. And yeah, it felt automatic. I met all you guys essentially through this. I was literally just looking through my email of the night before the table read for this. And Fola's like, you know, Curtis told me so much about you. Can't wait to meet you. And I'm like, that's crazy. I would not have met any of you guys if not for this. And I still am a little bit, believe it or not, socially anxious. I have never, even prior to this project and even after this project, I'm not like a big go to the event guy. None of you guys have seen me at VAF or VIF. And it's not because I don't believe in supporting the community. It just makes me feel nervous. But because of this film, I had attended my first event, and it was like, it was everything, man. Like to sit in a room full of other people that are on the exact same pursuit of passion, it would not have happened if not for this film. It cleansed me. And then how quickly it was tainted. Right after that moment I was telling you guys about, like sitting there, I think I was in a balcony seat, you know, with my girl, and I'm watching this, and I'm like, wow, like I just did something that's like important. This is like impactful, and it is fulfilling. And I went downstairs and I went to go say hi to people. I was like, oh, what's up? Hey, Mick. Oh my God. You know, we're saying hi to people. And then from behind me, a casting director who I will not name was just like, hey. And I was like, oh. I had no idea who she was. And she's like, hey, you don't know. But you read for me quite a few times. And you most recently read for me for this project. I want to let you know you were very close to the project. And I was like, so you gotta tell me that right now. I was on a high.
That's a good sign. But I must say, it doesn't surprise me that you said that it was a year where you were coming close to loads of big stuff, because how Curtis would talk about you is like, oh, he's so good. Oh, this kid's gonna be a star. Like he's so like, and you are. You're fabulous, and look where your career is going. But like that, getting close to stuff, it's only a matter of time, and you are so good. But it doesn't surprise me to hear that was your experience in 2019, because then when I then met you, I was like, oh, okay, I get what Curtis has been saying all this time.
I appreciate it. And then after that, it was like a year of radio silence because of COVID. Everyone was going through it. And so I kid you not, this experience really was kind of like one of my like grounding pillars, especially because right after that, everyone was on shaky grounds. I mean, it was COVID. No one was really working. Through COVID was the first time I'd ever genuinely thought about like quitting, like, oh, maybe I won't do this anymore. But that kind of homing beacon of this film, of like that feeling of like, well, maybe I'll just start doing things that matter to me, like stories that are important to me. And so that was kind of my North Star for a little bit. Still is.
How about you, Mark? Did you have any goals when you came in to help the team?
Grandma's 80th was one of the first big short films that I ever shot, and it was a surreal experience. As everyone has already mentioned, it was. I didn't really know what to expect, to be honest. Well, I have shot a MAMM before that. I didn't know what MAMM was. I just kind of like, oh, it was a smaller thing. I think it was like 2016 when I shot something. It was smaller then, and then 2019 rolled up, and we did this thing, and it was one of the best nights of my life so far. Yeah, it was great. I didn't really expect much, but I got a lot out of it for sure.
So just going back a little bit to the story again, Curtis mentioned the film was made for MAMM, which happens over the course of 7 days. Do you guys remember at all what the theme was that year?
I want to say past, present, future.
Oh, was it?
Generations. It was kind of perfect the way that our theme just sat right in the middle of that, because I had a young version of me played by the incredible Micah Chan. Shout outs to Micah and Angie. Then there was, present Curtis, and then having grandma, right? So it was, I think that's what it was.
So when you were trying to figure out the story for MAMM, did this story come up first, or were there any other stories you were battling between while you were trying to come up with something for MAMM?
That's a really good question. I think I attended the MAMM info session thing, but I think by that point everyone had already committed and had already signed up. So they didn't release the theme until that point. So at the very beginning, when I just registered and submitted to the first initial round of applications, I had this idea in mind. Yeah, I just knew that it really inspired something in me, and I was lit up after I had sort of conceptualized this idea. So yeah, I'm pretty sure I was going into it already knowing that I wanted to tell the story, and then it just by chance happened to fit within the theme very nicely. All the other ideas got beat out much before we started this thing, for sure.
Making a film in even 2 weeks from writing to completion isn't something that just gets done every time. Some films take months and some films take weeks. So would you want to walk us through a little bit of the process from like the script to completion, and were there any challenges that you had to face and overcome to get the film done in such a short time?
I think it definitely, or from my perspective, I'm a real perfectionist, aka procrastinator. And so it wouldn't have been possible if I wasn't doing it with Curtis, because he's such an action person and has the network and is connected to people. So I think if I had spent too much time thinking about, oh my gosh, how is this possible, I would have been paralyzed. It was a credit to all the amazing crew and everyone that I think, again, it was about getting the right people together who were amazing at their jobs and would just be able to do everything. Like Mick, what you did with the design, I actually remember that as well, Ricky, of turning up on set and being like, oh, what? Like, this is amazing. I mean, sorry, I know we've not answered your question yet. I'm basically saying I would have had no idea how to do the process if it wasn't for you. So maybe you've answered the question. We
had an idea or like an outline going into it. But then, yeah, I mean, as soon as you get selected and as soon as the competition starts, you have,
Well, your pitch really was not. It didn't have a plot. It was just like, you had the story, like you had an idea of what you're gonna do. I don't think you ever showed an outline or a script prior to that.
Shortly after that, then.
Yeah.
And then MAMM put together for the selected team. MAMM put together like a day kind of workshop thing for everyone. Remember, there were like talks, and so MAMM were very supportive and very like helpful in the process. And
Yeah.
I'm sure even now, that was 2019. I'm sure now it's a competition that's growing bigger and bigger.
Yeah, and now it's massive. Having attended the last 2 or 3 since our year, the films that are coming out of this competition are insane. The talent is just, I can't even express like how proud I am of just seeing just how our community is thriving. But there's also money that's allocated to every film and every group now. So
Oh, now?
yeah.
Oh, yeah, because we didn't have that in 2019.
Yeah, ours was self-funded, but I can't stress enough how incredible this program was, because it was a huge eye-opener for me. It wasn't my first time producing. I had done, you know, a web series, some shorts and music videos before this, but this was my first one that was done for like a competition. And the biggest eye-opener for me was seeing how you can put together a team of just passionate people when there's a shared vision, how deadly that can be.
Mm-hmm.
I've never been good at asking people for favors or, you know, for anything. I'm the kind of guy that I'd just rather just buck up and do things myself, so not have to inconvenience people. So asking people to come on board for free or next to nothing was so difficult for me. That's cast, crew, locations, you know, in-kind donations from people, you know, for food, for this, for that, just people's time, especially. It was crippling for me. But seeing how invigorated everyone was and how and just how down everyone was to be a part of something in the competition sort of context was really cool to see. Not only did everyone show up, but everyone
like brought their
A game.
Yeah.
Our crew arguably worked together and harder than what you would see on a high budget set, because the care was there, the TLC was there, like Ricky said, just the authenticity of it. I think people really came to and realized the importance of stories like this and what these represent. We're not just kind of projecting mere versions of her. This is like true representation at its finest. And so I'm still like in awe and just incredibly indebted to everyone that's been a part of this project. With that said, yeah, we had 3 days of just an incredible experience where everyone just showed up, brought their A game. Thankfully, we didn't have too many hiccups, but you know, you're always, when you're under the gun and you're, you know, self-financing, you're always going to come across, you know, especially with time restraints and all of that, challenges working within those sort of outlines. But I think my favorite part of the process was once we got everything in the can. We had a quick moment to celebrate the fact that we shot the thing. We got everything on the hard drives. And then we had like, we had 48 hours to deliver the film, but our editor, shout out to Tom Belding, he was leaving on a trip, I think the day after. So we had to get majority of our film edited that next day. So I remember our last night of shooting, we had a quick moment to celebrate with the crew. And then we literally ripped home so that we could watch the dailies. So one of us
he fell asleep. I watched the dailies. But to be fair to him, he was also lead actor.
Yeah, I was.
Mick, was it? It wasn't your first MAMM, was it?
I had just started in the film industry then, so probably.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah. Late 2018 was when I started working in film.
What?
Yeah.
What the heck? I don't know why I always assume
I'm a young'un, man.
I always assume you've been doing it for like 10 years.
Well, I was an office worker for a long time before I joined here.
You were what? What were you doing?
I worked in the office for a long time.
Oh, cool.
Damn.
Coming into this, we knew what our goal was in terms of what the feeling
Should be
and what we were aiming for and what we wanted everyone to walk away with.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and just to echo some of that, which was like, I guess kind of what I was saying earlier too, is the whole experience on the set of Graham's 80th really made it feel like it was all possible. like, it made it feel possible in that, like, and I think I told Curtis, I told you this, and obviously I told Nick this, because 2 years later we would collaborate on the great Mari Emanuel's music video, Yet to Come, and that wouldn't have even been fathomable had not for me witnessing just the professionalism everyone literally brought onto set. Everyone was at the top of their game. Everyone brought an elite level of skill and like mastery to whatever they were doing, and it just made it feel possible. It made it feel like, oh, we can make really high quality work with exactly what we have and who's around us. Yeah, it would literally have not been possible if not for Grandma's 80th.
And for context, that was like your first directorial debut.
Yeah.
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 And it was great.
It was. I have feelings and thoughts, but I think we're very happy with how it turned out. I think I could have done a better job, but that's not for this.
Is it safe to say that the best is still yet to come?
It's almost as if the best is yet to come.
Mar's just shaking his head constantly at us for that. Well, speaking of the film process and stuff, the story itself is obviously about you, Curtis, and Fola. And how did it come that you guys made the decision that Curtis would be acting in the film while Fola would direct it mostly?
Question.
Honestly, I can't remember if this is how it happened, but this is just the first thing that comes to my mind. I had no desire to act in it. I really felt like it was more, this story would be more served by Curtis being in it. He knew it so well, like it was obviously such a good role for him to play, and I was more interested in being behind the camera. And I think, honestly, I think it would have just been weird if we had both been acting in it, because it is our story. I think that's just a bit too meta. That's my feeling, and I think Curtis knew that I really wanted to start directing, and so to focus all my attention on that as a new made sense rather than like also trying to act in it. It just felt a bit much.
Well, we just couldn't afford you, really.
Yeah.
How did we land on the concept of naming my character Curtis Lamb? Something that's been so triggering for me for so many years. About every production I've ever been on, they've never gotten my name right. 3 letters. 3 letters. But like Dominicinski and Zolzinskis get all their every single letter and syllable correct. Lum, for some reason, is impossible to spell. Yeah, how did you end up with naming me Curtis Lamb?
We thought that it would be more like, not safe, but a bit better for his family that it wasn't exactly everyone's names, right? Like that we should call them the Lums, because the Lums are really the Lums, and just to have like a little bit of distance. And then I just didn't think through the fact that Lamb was actually how people always misspell his name. So it was my fault. But I don't regret changing the family name. I don't think the family name should have been Lum, because that's your true family name. But maybe we should have chosen like a whole new.
I think maybe subconsciously it was a nod to that very.
Hey, bro, I don't think you can escape Lamb, bro. Even Onyx Lamb is Lamb. Onyx in reverse.
Technically, in Chinese, lamb and lum.
It is the
same
name.
Okay. Yeah. In the same way that he and ho are the same name, technically. So it was destiny. It's destiny.
This is kind of my favorite question to ask. Are there any bits of maybe trivia or Easter eggs or things that maybe viewers might not even know happened in the film that you want to share to us today?
I mean, it was you, Mick, that has a trivia. Your dad is in it.
There you go.
Right?
He clipped that, he saved that, he does not stop talking about it. You don't even see his face, it's literally the back of his head. But everyone knows it's his head because it's that bald head that everybody remembers. So that was my dad. Oh, my mom actually also, I think everyone reads the credits and they see my mom's name for the blue teapot. And that actually, the reason I asked Curtis and Fola to credit her for the blue teapot was it's her favorite teapot that I borrowed from her house. And she said, I better get credited for this because if you break this, you're gonna die.
Wasn't Mirren also in it? Was Mirren in it?
She was BG.
Yeah.
That was literally, I had met her for coffee maybe a month prior to that, and she was expressing to me how she wanted to get into the business. And so I told her to come on the set, introduced her to everyone there. People like, Yeah, Phil.
She was the coffee lady at the bakery.
That's right.
Oh,
Yeah.
The cashier, yeah.
Fun Easter egg: the owner's son of the
Diplomat.
diplomat and his girlfriend at the time, or maybe they're still together, were in the background of that scene, of the cake scene.
I have one. Grandma's bathroom was shot in the same that we were shooting in, so we had to cover the stuff, so the cover, because we see the outside of the bathroom, so we had to cover the door going into the kitchen, so it doesn't look like it's the same house. Yeah, so it's literally like the right side of the house is the grandma's house, and the left side of the house is whose house was that?
That would have been my mom's house.
Your mom's house.
Grandma would have been coming from her house to
Okay.
my mom's house.
And your mom was picking her up from her house.
Correct.
Yeah.
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 Flashbacks too were done in the
Yeah,
same-
flashbacks in the
Flashback
same
again.
house.
And see, that's
Yeah.
testament to what you did, Nick. How you made that house work for all of those
Absolutely.
locations.
I have two little Easter eggs. Well, one's an Easter egg, one's an embarrassing story.
I was gonna say.
The small Easter egg is kind of covered in the behind the scenes video. There's a picture of me graduating university. I never graduated university. It's a fake photo. And then the embarrassing story is once we wrapped, they had to go and start editing. I also had to leave urgently, but that's because I really needed to poo-poo.
From the set food or what?
I don't know. Maybe it was the nerves. Maybe it was the nerves being surrounded by such talent. Literally the entire night, the entire evening, my tummy was just going off. So I forgot who was on sound, but I think at one point I like started whispering into my mouth. I was like, I'm so sorry. And like sitting right next to me was like Myrasol, and she was kind of like the whole night I was like trying to really keep down. I was like, like really trying to hold it together. But my tummy, the more I hold it together, the more my tummy would just go like.
That's the worst feeling.
Yeah. And then during one point, as we were doing a take, so it was like quiet on set, and then like as we're like getting ready, my tummy goes. And then Myrasol looks over and she's like, oh, and I was like, huh? So as soon as we wrapped, I remember we did like a big like, yeah, everyone was like, woo. We had just like done the cake thing too, and it was like, yeah, everyone was like, yeah. I was like, okay, cool, see you, man. Great to meet you. See you, man. Great to meet you. And then I ripped it home to use the facilities. So that's my Easter egg.
And for years, I thought we had beef.
You leave so urgently.
Didn't even say bye.
Why just go, bro? Why didn't you just go in the bathroom?
Because I'm shy. I can't do it in public. And I just met you lovely people.
Well, we weren't watching you.
I know, but
I'm
I
not
felt
gonna
like
watch you do it. That's suffering right there.
That's respect on
Yeah.
the highest level.
Yeah.
I respect you so much. I will not shit in your presence.
That's it.
Your
Yeah.
house,
Yeah. You're too esteemed.
Yeah, the graduating thing, that's something we share. I technically did not graduate high school.
Me, technically, too.
Oh, really?
Well,
So we're
I
destined.
graduated high school, but I didn't finish high school, if that makes sense.
Oh.
They didn't let me do my last week of high school at our high school. But that's a story for another time.
Generous.
The one Easter egg I did want to talk about is, I don't know, Mark, if you remember this part, but remember when we were in Diplomat outside as we were trying to get that one, I think you were in a steady cam walking back and trying to get that shot of them walking with a cake and trying to match cut. And that was a very hard shot to get.
Yeah.
You want to walk us through a little bit?
I did not like how I came off back then because I yelled too. I'm like really mad because like the shot wasn't working. I was mad at the equipment and stuff like that.
I took it at least as you look like you really cared, and I was like, oh man, like I feel bad that I don't know what else we could do to help you.
It was a hard shot though.
It was. It worked out in the end for sure. It was a time where gimbals were not the normal thing. I was using a gimbal. It was like actually the DJI Ronin 1. It was like the original Ronin, which was really shitty.
Didn't that thing fall apart the second we
Good shot, yeah.
And then it would like tilt, and then you hear like this loud beeps. It was really annoying. It's like maddening, kind of. Yeah. Every time I see that shot, I was like, oh my god.
But you know what? That very shot though was the moment that, like, I mean, you know, we were already in the mix by that point, working together. But that shot and seeing how you rose above all of that is why I respect the shit out of you, and how you know, I'm such a fan of yours, and I love working with you. You know, it's because that passion that Mick was talking about, you know, that really rang across the whole set, and you got everyone charged up to want to make that shot happen, because we were running out of time for sure. We were running out of light. We were running out of time from Diplomat. They gave us a hard out. So we really only had like 1 or 2 takes of such a...
No, we had a lot of takes. And it was
a lot of takes.
We were not. We were running out.
We had a few takes in that, like, we knew we were dealing with faulty equipment. We knew his back was fucked. We were losing light.
Yeah.
So
it was hilarious.
My dad's bald head was...
It was hilarious seeing the behind the scenes after that shot. Everyone jumped up and just ran over towards me. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, Kelly, our focus puller.
Yeah.
He forgot to. He had to run back to get focus of cut.
It's nice to see people who carry their heart in their sleeves, and you could, you know, there's a difference about people who yell at people because they're being dicks, and there's people who yell because they're just passionate about trying to get something. Like,
yeah, I don't think
respect
any
that.
of us remember you like yelling in a bad, like you were. I think you were.
I was yelling to the world.
Yeah,
They curse the world.
Or curse us for putting it on the show.
No, it was great. It was great. Yeah, it was. I had to do, because it was like a really. So I had to follow Curtis from the inside of the bakery, and he comes out, right, and then after Myrasol comes out, I had to like tilt down on the cake so it matches the shot outside of the house too. So that was the hard part, because it was so heavy and it was such a long take that made it heavy, and my shoulders were burning.
Yeah, that was tough.
Yeah, I think we might have had an easy rig, like a support system, but it wasn't possible because I had to tilt, so I couldn't use it.
Yeah,
I had to tilt down.
in terms of the film and all that, obviously we talked about how this is all based on the real story. Fola, are you and Grandma Curtis in good terms now?
Very good terms. I wish I could speak Cantonese, but yes, she's always so lovely to me, and always says goodbye by saying "I love you." Yeah, she's so sweet. I really like. I'm kind of obsessed with that.
Did you actually practice like saying "Lehoma"?
Me?
Like,
yeah, I do.
Did that happen?
I'm not very good. I don't think I practiced like outside the. The real story was at a restaurant. I remember that, but
same difference, I guess.
Yeah,
different,
same difference.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, she's lovely, and I think I wish I could speak better Cantonese. I think she has like a world of stories in her, and what life she's lived. I think that of everyone, but especially grandparents. I think they just have. They're just like this treasure chest that I'm just like, oh.
There was a conversation recently where, so she was there, but obviously she can't understand Cantonese. So my grandma's talking to me, and then she was talking about sort of old Hong Kong, and then she was like, "Yeah, da da da, da da," and then her people, and I was like, "Grandma, chill." Turns out she meant the Brits, and I was like, "Woo!" You know.
Oh my god.
Her people. She kept on saying like her people, like, oh,
us terrible British.
But yeah,
when they were out here colonizing.
Yeah. No, but funny enough, she was actually saying
I would have ripped up what she was saying.
Yeah, true. Shout outs to Lillian Lim.
Yeah.
My grandma is in fact actually quite different, but Lillian brought such a wonderful. I mean, similar thing to what I was saying to Ricky. Like I've been such a fan of hers for so long, and there was only one person that I had in mind that could pull this off, and I was just floored when she said yes.
Here's a question for you, Curtis.
Yes, sir.
When you made that pitch video, I know you mentioned Lillian Lim and Ricky He. Did you already ask them before you said that? So you guys haven't seen the pitch video. I've seen it, and Fola's seen it. Yeah, so he did mention
Chow Yun Fat to play my dad, but
yeah. He did say your name, Ricky. He's like, oh, my brother's gonna be played by Ricky He, and then there's only one person that can play my grandmother, and then that's Lillian Lim.
Yeah.
So you never asked them.
I hadn't asked.
We're
No.
manifesting.
And
Wow.
funny enough, Ricky and Lillian share the same agent.
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
So yeah, everyone else I asked personally. I think I asked you, Ricky, personally, but Lillian,
Yeah.
I actually had to go through her agent
Wow.
later.
Yeah.
Didn't she get nominated for something?
Well, she had a Leo nomination off of this.
That's right.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and
Oh, for grandmas?
yeah,
Yeah.
and she took
Oh.
the best performance
Nice.
award at MAMM.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I was so
My,
happy.
our agent loves Grandma's 80th, by the way.
Really?
Amazing. Yeah. But funny enough, so here's a fun Easter, well, not Easter egg, but little behind the scenes trivia. At first, Lillian kind of said no.
Oh, no way.
It wasn't a no. I hit her with this very sort of passionate speech of like how much of a fan I was of her, how we had met on Meditation Park, this and that, and then she kind of goes, "Who the fuck are you?" Like, she's like, "What? What do you want me to? Huh?" But as soon as we got past that, she saw something in this role, and what she brought was again just insane. You know what I mean? Like I fell in love with that version of Grandma as well. Lillian is basically family to me at this point. We have this kindred thing now.
The goat.
And since then, she's been working nonstop. Like there's still no one else that can even touch her.
Yeah.
In this city.
It would have been hard if she said no.
Yeah.
Really hard.
It would have been different.
I still stand by that. There's no one, not even in this city. Like I can't think of anyone in our industry that would have, I don't know, brought that level of truth to the role and just grace. So
Not even Chow Yun-fat.
not even
Not even
Yun-fat.
Not even time.
Chow Yun-fat replaces Mike Chang.
That's a great.
Yeah, I get a lot of that from my family. Like, what you cast that guy to play me? My dad refuses to acknowledge that Mike Chang is actually a dead ringer for,
Yeah, he's
for my
awesome.
dad. Mike had the epic stash at that time, or maybe it was a goatee. But this film still gets sparks a lot of great conversations at the family table. Let's just say.
That's awesome.
Nice.
So as you mentioned, there has been quite a number of success that came out of this film. I mean, winning MAMM and almost sweeping, if not sweeping, the entire year, which I think he did again a few years later with Reverse, but it's a tale for a different episode, I guess.
We also won, like, what was it, Audience Choice at VAF? At
Mhm.
VAF.
Right, yeah, true.
Yeah.
And Audience Choice at a festival in London.
Oh, nice.
I was going to ask you, Fola, to lead this question because as much as I know you like winning, so I was going to say, talk about the festival side of all of this. Where was this film screened, and what was the experience like being all in these festivals?
Yeah, it was awesome, and that's actually perfect with what I was going to say. So we did a festival in London called Triforce Film Festival, and I was nervous for that one because I think the ones that we'd been a part of over this side of the world were more Asian film festivals.
Mhm.
So MAMM, VAF, even Seattle Asian Film Festival, Disorient. I felt like we knew that the audience would get what we were saying.
Mhm.
Whereas with London, it was a truly mixed audience, if not, I'd say predominantly more black and white people, but predominantly maybe black. So I was like, and Curtis wasn't there for that screening, and I was so nervous. I was like, oh, how is this going to go down? And the feeling of being in there and hearing the laughter of a whole different type of audience. I mean, obviously everyone's human, but just a different demographic culturally. It was just so awesome that they got it. Like I relaxed as soon as the laughter came, and they laughed at Mike doing that to Ella.
Yeah, yeah.
To Ella. I really enjoyed that, of seeing that even if you're not specifically like an Asian man and a mixed race black woman, there were people messaging us saying like, oh, I'm Jewish and my partner is not Jewish and we get this, or whatever it is, that people seem to connect with it, and there was a universality.
Yeah,
universalness.
This
story.
This project was the living sort of testament to the fact that like the more specific you get sometimes with your storytelling, funny enough, ironically, the more universal it becomes. Like if you look at our YouTube page,
Comments.
comments in the comment section. Like, there's people from all over the world that really loved this film, and it resonated with them. And it just goes to show, like, it's a beautiful thing, isn't it, to see
Yeah.
how we're all connected, and we're all actually more similar than not all over the world. And
Yeah.
so,
Totally.
Yeah, it was awesome. The festival circuit was fun.
but I don't know if you said you were maybe more nervous, but like, you were already quite nervous at MAMM. You should have seen her.
I was horrible to sit next to. I was
My
like,
hand is still, I think, recovering from. To give people context, right? So of course we were nervous. This is our first time entering the arena of filmmaking competition.
no, but even just filmmaking, it was just terrifying having a
Filmmaking. And our film had screened, everyone had liked it. You know, we were so relieved because, like, people were laughing when we sort of needed them to laugh. People were crying when we wanted them to cry. And then at that point, it's like, man, we're on cloud nine. It doesn't get any better than that.
Yeah.
This night's going great. This night's going great. And then they set up the next film, and then they play our film again. I think they ended up playing our film like 3 times throughout the night because of technical difficulties.
Which was
so we were like mortified. We're like, fuck. We just ruined, you know, we just ruined the taste in everyone's mouths. And then on top of that, like, it just, how would it look now? It just kind of just ruined the whole, you know, the whole experience. And so I remember right before they called our names up, you were like so nervous the whole time. She was just like.
But just so that I don't seem like a total nutcase, nerves wasn't like competition nerves. It's just so, and like Mick, you're directing that, like all of you directing that thing. It's so, I think it's just so vulnerable, and I find it very vulnerable and nerve-wracking, like putting your little baby out in the world, even if it's you know, a short film. Like, I can't imagine what those directors feel when they're taking their film to Cannes or something like that. Like, I don't know how they do that. It's just so vulnerable.
Yeah.
You have to put your film out into the world, and then it takes on this other life once it interacts with an audience, and that's truly what we're doing, isn't it? As storytellers, it's got to get out there to an audience. So the festival circuit was super fun.
Totally. Like,
terrified. It's not easy putting yourself out there.
No. And even, you know, I've prepared. I'm like, I'm ready. Like, people can shit on my film. I'm fine with it. Like, I don't even like my own films anyway. Like, you know, I hype myself up that way. And so even with that, it's still terrifying, you know?
Is it different, like acting? Like, if you're acting in one and then...
Yeah, it's
Sure, that's
so
a good
different.
question.
It's so different. I can only speak for myself, but as an actor, I always describe it like, as an actor, I think you're the paint. And that's a wonderful thing. You're the paint. You can be different hues of colors, but you're the paint. Someone else is the painter with the paintbrush. And ultimately, no one looks at a piece of art and goes, oh, that red. Like, really, they talk about the painter. And so I think when you're crafting the whole story, it's all down to, obviously it's teamwork, but ultimately it's the director's vision. And so I think it's much more vulnerable.
Especially if you're the writer director.
Yeah. It's still vulnerable as an actor, but it's just different. It's just different.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, DPing doesn't hurt as much as directing. You know, if you don't achieve what you set out to, your goals, definitely different. Hits different.
And you also watch, or I do now, anytime I'm watching something, I watch, and because you've seen it so many times as the director, I'm just like, I can't watch this anymore, because I think I actually can't watch Grandma's 80th. I love it, but I can't watch it anymore because it just is like, I see all the things I want to do differently, or you know.
Totally. I found recently, I noticed, is that when I show people the films I make, I show them clips. So I don't show them the whole thing. I'm like, oh, check out this part, blah, 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 blah. Someone had to tell me, can you like let me watch the movie? Well, you can't, but check out this part. You can see that.
I've learned to like just let go. You know, not even think about that anymore. It's best to put it out in public, so like it's out there. You don't have to really worry about it anymore. You're not. Yeah. It's not meant to be, you know, kept, you know, locked in the box anyway. You want to be a storyteller, you have to put out these stories and show them to the world.
And you'll make mistakes and all that.
It's funny, you said that you're a perfectionist, aka a procrastinator. Therefore, I'm a non-perfectionistic user that no, but like, I don't believe in perfection. I don't think that there is such a thing. I think it's an impossible goal to reach. And art is so completely subjective. But these projects, they represent you doing your absolute best in that given time. And so I'm with you. It's hard for me to watch my older stuff and things that I've done in the past, but I do sometimes when I'm in the right headspace, I like seeing it more so almost like looking back at like a photo album. You know what I mean? It just represents a time and a moment and like a collective sort of shared experience that means a lot to me.
Do you feel about the same way with your music video, Ricky?
That's the thing. I never had we never really did a big screening.
Yeah.
We released it on YouTube, and I do feel like it was definitely felt like one of those where after like watching the different edits, it's kind of like, ooh, I'm kind of done watching this again. I don't really want to watch this again. Yeah. But at the same time, I think with the music video, it was just so we didn't really do a screening. I definitely feel way more I mean, that's really the only thing I've ever directed, and so I definitely feel way more self-conscious about being in front of the camera as opposed to being behind the camera as of right now. And that's probably going to change. Yeah, especially like in the last year, I'm really just kind of trying to access my sensibilities as an artist, because it's just so foreign to me. I always thought like being a quote unquote storyteller makes more sense to me than being a quote unquote artist, and trying to realize that they kind of go hand in hand has been something I've just been working on my own. So it's different. It's like completely different.
Just totally random, but does that apply to like, do you consider yourself a martial artist?
That's a good point. I mean, I feel like such a novice in the martial arts that it's like you really only get little spurts of time where you can access the actual art of it. Like so much of it is getting the fundamentals down and like getting really, really strong. It's like the same thing as like when you're preparing for like a scene or like preparing for a shoot. It's like I have to do so much legwork, having an actual grounded understanding of everything that's happening, and then dropping all that and then going in there and just like letting it kind of like roll. And I think that's the same thing with the martial arts. I just feel like I get very small spurts of time where you're like in there and you're not thinking about anything and you're just flowing through it, and that's the best part. But very rarely do I get to feel that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well said.
I'm not a perfectionist, but I am a procrastinator. So whatever that means.
I think that balance of striving to be the best and knowing what you can actually achieve is, I've seen, just the most important skill and thing to develop. It's like, Phil has taught me many times to strive more for perfection because I keep letting things go because I just want to make sure everyone's okay.
I always like to say that there's like a duality. I always kind of applied it towards just the acting, and then realizing that it kind of is broader and I guess all art, which is just like that duality of feeling like I'm the shit, I'm Michael Jordan, and having that deeply self-conscious, insecure need of approval. Mm-hmm. And the showrunner of the show I'm working on, and he directs a lot of the episodes. Him and I were chatting about it. He kind of said on that, what I call like an athletic arrogance, he calls it, the audacity. And that's like the best word for it, right? Like how can I be audacious enough to think that I can do this? How can I be audacious enough to think that I can write, direct, and produce a film? How can I be audacious enough to think that I could even exist in this space that's so competitive, and so on some days we wake up and we're like, no, yeah, I'm him.
Phil always says that you need that in this industry.
Yeah.
You absolutely need it. Like it doesn't matter, like if you're actually that or not, to survive in this industry, you need to be delusional.
Yeah.
Some way, form or another.
It's both and though, right? Like I think it was Gary Vee that said it. Like you have to kind of hold space for both, knowing that you're the shit, but then also knowing that you ain't shit at the same time.
Yeah.
We are always our worst critics as well. So I think it's always important to have a really good team, and that's why the team is so key, and everyone on that team has to play a role and sort of add to that balance. And that's why I love working with everyone here, more so on the production side. Marc and Mick, like you guys both are very even keeled when it comes to holding the creative space and the practical kind of get it done space,
Mhm.
right? I think that's why we've always worked well together, because we care a lot about the art and we care a lot about, yeah, you know, what we're
people too.
doing. But at the same time, we don't cripple ourselves, and we never slow ourselves down or stop for the sake of that, because we have enough sort of balance on the other side where we
Mhm.
know what it takes to kind of hit that finish line and get it done. So
Totally.
I value that a lot, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Better done than perfect.
Yeah. Just to wrap things up, I do usually ask these few last questions. The first is a series of questions. Since, I mean, Grandma's 80th Surprise has been out for 4 years now, so I think a lot of us have had a lot happen in our careers since then. But I always like asking people, what have you kind of worked on since the film, so the past 4 years, and what are you working on now or in the near future? And maybe also share one little food for thought that you may have learned from making this film.
I definitely learned what you guys were just talking about. I learned better done than perfect, because I definitely have been of the mindset of, if you're not going to do something right, don't do it at all. But then that can be a bit crippling. I think you've got to be somewhere in between. And then after Grandma's 80th, that was 2019, I started developing a documentary, and I just finished it and it's out in the UK. That's my first documentary that I made. Now it's out in the UK and we're working on finding international home for it as well.
Are you allowed to talk more about it?
Yeah, it's called Untold Stories Hair on Set, and it's a documentary about actors with curly and afro hair, the fact that no one knows how to do our hair on set. And so it's an exploration of how something as like seemingly superficial as hair actually can kind of teach us a lot about race and identity and belonging, and how our industry is set up to support or not support people.
It's amazing.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And you were also just on a TV show too.
Yes, yeah, and then yeah, my focus is of course also acting. So The Night Agent came out earlier this year, but now the strike's done, it will be on to the next acting project, hopefully.
Wait, season 2?
Season 2 is happening, but my character isn't in season 2.
Oh.
Yeah.
Awesome.
My biggest takeaway, I think, is the power of family. I was so blessed to have found my film family off of my first try in this space. And you know, since then I've collaborated with you guys on a bunch of stuff. Marc and I ran it back, like I think not the next year, but 2 years later, with Reverse, which was also a fantastic experience. Save that for another time.
And Mick.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. You know, that came with its challenges, but man, you know, it's an incredible learning experience as well. Since then, I've been also, working on just a bunch of shows, and I've really just tried to proceed with just representing, you know, not projecting, just truly representing and showing up for myself, and then also like, continuing to try to tell stories and play characters that I personally want to see. And that's kind of been my driving force and my North Star. I found my groove there. I think I've been really fortunate to have played some really fun, colorful, interesting characters on the acting side, and then even the things that I've been producing since Grandma's 80th. You know, I've caught the bug with this project of what it feels like telling something that's meaningful. And I think as filmmakers, we should strive to be saying something, you know. And so I just wrapped yesterday on a feature film called Chinatown Diner.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, and this is another film that's been very, very meaningful and personal to me. This character, for the first time in my life, I've played a character that is so dynamic, and you know, he's almost as dynamic as like I've always aspired to be myself. And so it was really nice taking that leap to like meet this guy there and to bring it to life. So I'm just very fulfilled right now, and it was a perfect way to close off 2023. So
cool.
Yeah, my biggest takeaway was, you know, kind of what I already touched on earlier, which is just that it's so doable with the people around us, and we have such a strong community. And for me, the most important thing really was the importance of, for me, doing stuff that is either important to me or important to a community. So I'm grateful and lucky that I'm in a place in my career now that I can just be a little bit more selective in that, like, oh, if that's not a story that's important to me or going to be impactful to the community, then I don't have a necessity to do it. You know, I've been able to work on, we're shooting season 3 of our TV show From on MGM Plus, available on Paramount Plus Canada. And yeah, I mean, I've been saying this to friends and family for the longest time, but you know, this is it's some of like my proudest work, and I think that it's the perfect example of something I get to work on that I'm proud of and that I'm excited about. And then I also just earlier this year wrapped my first ever rom-com called Worth the Wait. I think it's going to drop sometime in 2024. Got our great friends Lana Condor, Ross Butler, and Sung Kang, and little Ricky He. Also Osric Chow, who I finally met. Yeah, I'm excited. And hopefully at some point in 2024, me and the guys over at Electric Panda and Curtis, we're going to try to sell a little pilot that I've been working on. And hopefully that'll be the return of my directing. Maybe. We'll see how that kind of ends up. But excited.
Cool.
Lots to look forward to. Yeah.
I guess in relation to grandma's, I'm definitely grateful for everyone here in the Zoom call and the cast and the crew of Grandma's 80th. Grandma's 80th surprise was definitely like I consider a stepping stone for me, as far it kind of took my career in a different level for sure, and that was like the beginning of the rise. Still rising, slowly, but you know, as Curtis said, you know, we 2 years later we ran it back and we made a bigger short that took my career in a whole different level again, which I'm very grateful for. But lately I've been directing quite a lot, and that's kind of like my focus these days, while also like still continuing to shoot because I love filmmaking. I do all kinds of roles. I just like the whole process. I think it's like something I want to do for the rest of my life. So it's that's that.
Marc is about that life.
Yeah. You know, it's not always sunshine and rainbows. It's definitely a lot more pain than normal. but you know, like directing films, like yeah, especially in the director's seat, it's especially like not getting where I wanted to go, goals wise. It's a good thing if I get rejected, actually, because it makes me, you know, it humbles me, and it doesn't. I don't get too high on myself. You know, every film I do, I always experiment on something, and I think it's still a success regardless of what people's opinions are. It's more about how I judge it myself, because the only opinion that matters is mine, and I think I'm doing a good job. So so that's what's happening. We're continuing to make more projects with Curtis, hopefully Fola and Ricky again in the future, and Mick in the very near future.
Marc's going to be acting really soon.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting
Mick,
project.
is that something you're directing?
No, I'm helping produce something, and you know, you guys better watch out. Marc's going to be
Oh, we
taking
know
after
it.
your jobs.
We know it. We know it.
Yeah. So yeah, that's something that's next month actually. So
Awesome.
That's great.
it's gonna be fun.
What about you, Mick?
I started directing a little bit more now. We just made one short film for shits and giggles, which Marc actually helped out in, The Experiment. And I don't know what happened to that film, but for some reason we've gotten so many people watch it in YouTube.
Yeah, it was like 50.
It's gone viral.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like we've had people comment about all of it. I'm like, this was something it was like a last minute thing that we thought would just be done for fun. Yeah.
Those are the best kinds of
Yeah.
unexpected things that you
Yeah, some dumb sci-fi that we put a Dremel on a hard drive.
It's not dumb.
Sorry, a silly sci-fi idea that it was really just Ian and I sitting in literally right here, just being like, what are we gonna write about? She told me, do a sci-fi, stop doing horror, and then that came out of it. It's been well received so far, so honest surprise to us for that. So
Amazing.
the last question I have, just where can we find you guys?
I'm at Ricky He with no I.
What is it? RCKY.
HE. I couldn't get it. The I've been messaging the guy for like 8 years. I'm like, hey, maybe I can buy the handle off you. He just leaves me on red.
Oh,
He
there's
doesn't even use
another.
it.
There's another Ricky He.
Yeah, there's like a Chinese guy in Houston, something like that, at Ricky He. I'm
Someone
like,
find
hey,
him.
yeah, I'm gonna send you money for it. And he just leaves me on red.
That's so funny.
Well, you
For
Mark.
me, I'm at MJYUNGCO.
I can't change it at Handsome Lum on Instagram. But
Spell it
so
out, bro. Spell it out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
It's not
just
this.
make sure they get the lum right.
yeah,
Yeah.
and the sum.
Well, you can't change your text.
I've been trying for years.
Oh well.
It started off as a joke, and then now I can't change it. It's been very frustrating.
Like,
I think it's part of the brand.
I think it's
yeah,
fine.
exactly. It's probably
Works.
mine's just my name at Fola Evans-Akingbola.
Must be nice.
Must be nice.
Cool. If anyone has any questions you want to ask the filmmakers or the team here, leave a comment on the video or send them a message, and I'm sure they'll be happy to.
Send the real
Hear
Ricky
from you.
E in Houston the message.
Yeah, exactly. Let them know what's up.
the real Ricky He.
Let's flood their inbox.
Or if you want to nominate a film for Flavor of the Month, you can send us a message at Instagram at wearehalohalo, HALOHALO. You can watch Grandma's 80th Surprise in YouTube at We Are Halo Halo. It will be under the Flavor of the Month playlist. Or you could search up Curtis Lum's YouTube channel, which the film I believe is there. Again, thanks for listening to the, what is it now, 4th episode of the Flavor of the Month.
Thanks for having us.
Hell
Wait,
yeah.
which was the third episode?
Oh my gosh, what's it called? Hail Mary.
Oh, okay, got it.
Whoa.
Oh, how did you do that?
I have no idea how it did that. I mean, look, my
Like,
hands are here.
reaction.
My hands are here.
Good, nice hand gestures.